One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
When my dream girl, a young American woman resembling Audrey Hepburn, walked into my Danish college dorm, I wanted to ask her out on a date. Unfortunately, all I could say was, "You're a beautiful lady, but your glasses are so ugly they hurt my eyes." She squinted. Her face grew as red as her horrible cat-eye glasses, and her fists were starting to clench. I didn't have a good follow-up line, and she looked like she might punch me in the face. I told my roommates I was interested in this girl, but I didn't know how to ask her out. A month later, all of us decided to go see Brokeback Mountain. When I got to the cinema, only the girl showed. I got my date! And at a pretty steamy love story to boot. I paid for the popcorn, the sodas, the movie tickets. Afterwards, I took her to my favorite Irish pub. Over pints, I shared with her my then firmly held belief that dating is basically prostitution. The premise of both prostitution and dating being the exchange of objects with monetary value for the promise of sex. She looked unconvinced. When we got back to the dorm, my roommates were sitting around watching The Simpsons. We joined them sitting next to one another on an empty couch. I leaned over to my friend John to fist bump him for the successful hookup. She leaned the other way towards our friend Yetta. She said, "He was a nice enough guy, but it's purely platonic for me." My heart dropped. I had been the perfect gentleman and an inspirational conversationalist. How does an awkward boy stuck in the friend zone get the girl? Simple. I realized her idea of cooking was burning pasta. I offered to share my meals with her, hoping she would at least start talking to me. From then, almost every night, we found ourselves next to one another on a couch, eating, watching TV, and talking. We even wrestled on those worn green couches. Something that greatly confused me. Was wrestling with your male friend something American girls did, or was she starting to like me? On her final night in Denmark, she did what I was too shy to do. She kissed me. I am not sure if it was my daily emails or heart-filled care packages that convinced her to marry me, but 3 years later, she said yes, and I moved to Texas. Married and living in a small one-bedroom apartment, I took the first job I could get at a firm best described by watching The Wolf on Wall Street. My life became a long line of smiles and dials, jacked up on adrenaline and an unchecked adoration of money. I was so singularly focused on working that I would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to check my emails. I thought everything was great. But when I asked my wife if we should have a child, she told me, no. She wanted a husband that was present and who would put her and our child first. That wasn't me. For a year and a half, she told me every morning to quit my job. I didn't listen. But when my boss told our office we'd be fired if we got selected for jury duty, I finally saw how bad this place was. The next day, I quit. A weight came off my shoulders. I needed to heal before I got a real job again, so I took a temp job, or as I call it, my paid work vacation. Not caring about my job, I was finally able to focus on being a husband, and as it turns out, a dad. My next wake-up call came when instead of a promotion, my company gave me a coach. She told me I needed to genuinely learn to shift my thinking on leadership and human relationships. I was shocked and confused. The feedback I got was not that I wasn't smart or delivering on my objectives. I was having a negative impact on others because I didn't consider their feelings and needs. At first, I really didn't get what I was being asked to do or why. I assumed that because I'm a big, loud person, what I was really being asked to do was shut up and not rock the boat. Every day at work, I'd pretend to be Aaron Burr. Talk less, smile more. Luckily, my coach was really good at peeling away my layers of self-ignorance. Sharing my story and tears with her, I slowly realized that I was utterly, unconsciously incompetent at listening to and caring for others. I was JB the Tank Commander. Considering the impact of my words and actions had just never been a habit I had formed. Recently, I realized that regardless of how much progress I'd made, I was still only treating a symptom, not the root cause. So I made one of the most important decisions of my life. I needed a therapist. Finally, things have started to make sense. I have Asperger's. For 35 years, I was a broken record, scratched and unable to let the pickup move beyond the harsh and inconsiderate facade and let the tenderness on the next track show. It was my actions that have pushed my friends and colleagues away. Like when I was at a workshop with my peers and spent the whole 3 days debating every single item on the agenda like I was Nixon going up against Frost. I started to feel regret that I didn't talk to a therapist years ago. Regret that I never listened when I was challenged on my behaviors. My condition is mild. With the support of my wife, coach, therapist, boss, and peers, I have become a lot more adept at self-regulating my behavior and emotional state. I am realizing things today that I never would have acknowledged before. Just in the last month, 2 of my colleagues shared with me that they felt they weren't being heard when I responded to their perspectives with "no" or "I disagree." I am fairly confident that someone has told me that before. But this is the first time I saw their point and thought, I need to just do something about it. There are things I will likely never feel comfortable doing. For instance, when this show is over and we're mingling out in the lobby, I will not enjoy hugging you. And if you ask me about my passion for the Green Bay Packers, I will forget that you probably don't care about their record-breaking 13 championships or the fact that we're the 3rd oldest teams after the Cardinals and the Bears. Though, unlike those teams, we've never changed cities or monikers. We're still better. I am also nowhere near as aware as I would like to be. Just this Valentine's Day, when my wife asked me to tell her something romantic, I said, "Your knees are straight on your legs." I personally thought the remark was high praise. But apparently, this was only slightly less inconsiderate than my description of her eyewear when we met. But every day, I'm getting slightly more consciously competent. Who knows? One day, I might just become unconsciously competent at being human.